Chavan.
Thank you, Madam Michelle, our resilient Toastmaster. And I want to recognize our guests, also all our familiar faces, beautiful familiar faces. Great to see each of you, especially on Tara Day from TikTokers Days, and our guest, Ray. Welcome and enjoy our SML. I am here to subject each of us through what we may call a social experiment. Who likes social experiments? Can I see some hands? All right, all of you. Wow. Okay. In addition, I'm going to ask you something different than usual. I'm going to invite each of you to unmute yourself for multiple reasons. We want to hear your dogs howl, cats meow, and your car siren. Right, Jamie? Most importantly, I'm asking each of you to unmute because this is going to be a participatory workshop. I would like each of your participation. Let us subject ourselves with our social experiment. I'm going to ask you for your response. In our social experiment, how many steps do you think we have? Who can help us? What would be your guess? How many steps are there in our social experiment?
Five.
Okay. I wanted to have 4 steps in my social experiment. Since Leo said 5, I'm going to add 1 more. I need to think about that. All right. All right. So let us walk through our steps. Step number 1 of our social experiment: humanize. Step number 2: mystify. Step number 3: Disneyfy. Step number 4: Rideify. Step number 5: Murphyfy. And the intent of our social experiment is to elevate our member experience. Let us call it a magical member experience. How can we elevate our experience? And I'm going to ask you to answer your question within yourselves. How would you describe your typical SML member experience? Is it moderate? Is it memorable? Or is it magical? While we have those questions in our mind, I'm going to pose few table topics like questions, and I am going to invite Jamie. Jamie will be our first table topics participant. And question for Jamie: SML plus in-person experience. Over a period of 30 years, we SML have been meeting in person in places like St. Paul, Roswell, and Woodbury. How would you describe your expected and unexpected, good, bad, and ugly side of SML in-person experience? And we request you to keep in 2 minutes. I will wave my hand when you hit 2 minutes, Jamie.
Thank you, Edward, fellow Toastmasters and our welcome guests. The in-person experience is something that really drove me to Saturday Morning Live. You walk in the meeting and several people are getting ready, but everyone's willing to stop and say hi, introduce themselves. We always have food. It's like a continental breakfast, which I always appreciate when I'm waking up early and dressing up on a Saturday morning. And then it's really amazing to see how people are open to give honest, very helpful feedback whenever you're doing a speech. And you can see such great speeches, evaluations. It's just a wonderful atmosphere. And then we take a little bit of a break halfway through between the speeches and evaluations where we get to network some more and get to know each other. And there's just some wonderful personalities in the group. It's also great to hear the different experiences. We talked about Michelle Purdue being a resiliency coach. I've learned a ton from her just in the few minutes you get to network throughout the meeting. Jim's a vocal coach. I've heard from him. Jane does a lot with her church, with kids, and me doing a lot with a kids camp in the summer. That really related well to me. There's so many different things that you get above and beyond just Toastmasters and public speaking, or we focus on evaluations, but there's also a lot of great networking and great people in the club that you get to know with some food and some fun along the way. Back to you.
Thank you, Jamie. Food and network. Who can argue with those?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. All right, now let us bring our second participant. I'm going to look for a volunteer who wants to raise their hand and take on this second challenge. Any volunteers? All right, okay, I see one volunteer. So I am going to go with Carolyn Saba. All right. So question for Carolyn. That is SML plus Zoom experience. No one has imagined a year ago SML will meet and evaluate over Zoom. How would you describe your expected and unexpected, good, bad, and ugly side of SML Zoom experience? Carolyn.
Thank you, Edward. Hello, Toastmasters and our guests. Zoom has been a really interesting experience with Toastmasters for me. At around the time that we started meeting in Zoom, I think our last meeting was in person in March. I left my home club, and so Saturday Morning Live has been my only club. So I've only been doing Toastmasters over Zoom for the past several months. One thing that I miss a lot is the energy in the room that Jamie talked about. You walk in, the room buzzes. It buzzes with activity, it buzzes with smiles and handshakes, which, you know, we can't do anymore. We can't shake hands anymore. But I miss that a lot. What I really like about Zoom and SML over Zoom, however, is the energy is still here. We have a lot of people on the screen that you can see. We have a lot of smiles. We have people nodding. People are engaged as they are at Saturday Morning Live. When I speak, I like to give funny speeches. So the next time I speak over Zoom, it might be a little different experience because people are usually on mute. So you might not hear the laughter. You might not get that same kind of energy or feedback. But I still like coming to this club and meeting over Zoom. And I'm happy to see everybody each month. And you know, I think we'll be successful. I think we'll make it through however long this lasts. I think we'll be okay.
Awesome, awesome.
Edward.
Thank you. We all miss the laughter and the limitation of laughter over Zoom. Thank you, Carolyn. Question number 3. This is for our Gopu Shrestha. SML plus hybrid experience. When was it last time, Gopu, that we met both in person and Zoom.
Thank you, Edward. I think it was
And right. And how would you describe your imagined version of good, bad, and ugly side of a potential hybrid in-person plus Zoom SML experience?
Thank you. I think we met 4 or 5 months ago. And as my previous speaker says, the vibration, the energy of this club was based on in-person meeting. I understand 2 communication languages. One is vocal and another is physical expression. We both got, especially I get impressed with this SML and this club for 5 years because of that impression. Now, what I am really worrying, which would be is my imagination, is we will be still and connect whom we know, like all of you guys who we met in person before. I am worrying about new members who only meet us in virtual meeting only, because those energy won't be existed in virtual meeting. But I am optimistic we could do a hybrid meeting where one like quarterly we can meet in person and have those energy back to our clubs again. In other words, good thing is we still have those energy because we know everybody. Bad thing is we might not recruit new members who really want to know about Saturday morning life because it has different flavor than most of the clubs as an advanced club. But I'm still hope that we can still bring those energy, flavor, and bring more guests, turn into a member, and keep this alive as we used to do. That's what my feeling says. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Gopu, for sharing your perspective on potential hybrid SML meetings. Now that we went through the conversation, what we just went through is our step 1 of our social experiment, what I call humanize. The intent of humanizing our member experience is to listen, understand, and empathize our members' expectations. And we don't want to stop with what our members described, what their expectations are. That brings me to our step 2. We want to mystify. What do we mean by mystify? We want to take the input and ask some intriguing questions within ourselves, such as what if, why not, how might we, who else can provide such feedback. We take all these and frame questions around the information that we have gathered. So the first 2 steps, humanize and mystify, is all about framing our questions so that we can elevate member experience. Now let us move on to step 3. Step 3 is all about Disneyfying. Imagine Walt Disney is with us and he is brainstorming with us, coming up with ideas. What kind of solutions, ideas Walt Disney will offer? Will it be wild? Will it be out of box, out of the ordinary? Will it be in the spirit of child? We want to imagine in the spirit of child because they don't have any boundaries. They don't have preconceived notions. So we would want to Disneyfy our brainstorming sessions. Now that we have come up with all these wild and crazy ideas, next step in our social experiment is to rightify. What do we mean rightify? We would want to think like Wright brothers, and we would want to build our solution with what we got quickly and efficiently. Make it fly. Make your ideas fly. It's completely opposite of what Disneyfy. There we come up with wild and crazy and undoable, impossible approaches. With Rightify, the opposite. What can we do now, quickly? Now, once we build it, we want to take it to the marketplace so that we want to Murphyfy it. So what do we mean by Murphyfy? Who can describe a quote from Murphy? I'm looking for some audience participation. What would Murphy say? In fact, let me expand my own thought. Anything that is supposed to go wrong will go wrong at the inconvenient time. Has that happened to anyone before? So when we build our solution, that is subjected to go wrong. So we want to enhance, elevate our member experience such that within SML, new members, long-time members, and everyone in between, we all can have elevated, magical member experience. So look at this picture. This child is having an awesome experience that will stay with her rest of her life. I am going to invite our own members to come together and consider how we can elevate our member experience into a magical, mystical member experience. And in order to do that, I invite each of you to practice 5 steps of our social experience, which is humanize, mystify, Disneyfy, Rightify, and Murphyfy. Madam, resilient Toastmaster Michelle.